I'd like to normally start this off with a travel the world and the seven seas, but I have not been that much around the world as much as I would like to be in my mid to late 30s now. But nonetheless, cynocephalid, which I hope I've been pronouncing correctly, one of my lovely patrons, asked me about my experiences in traveling and particularly going to conventions. And like I said, I've not gotten to do nearly as much traveling over the years as I would have liked to. I've not been on nearly as many interesting vacations to various countries and places as other people, because I ended up spending my money on other things. But it's because of conventions that I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of different places as a result of that. And hoping, as of recently, because now I have 2 different convention agencies, that I'll get the chance to do that a little bit more, because I've had quite a few people asking me, would you come to this con? I'd love to meet you. And I'm like, I'd love to meet more people and go to more conventions and do more events and stuff. But nonetheless, so I did do quite a bit of traveling, thanks to my folks, when I was a young little lad. And as a matter of fact, I think, to my recollection, at least the first major kind of traveling journey that I can recall, from when I was probably about 4 or 5 years old at best, was when I went to Florida for the first time to go to Disney World. This is so long ago. It was back when Hollywood Disney was still called MGM Studios, and I believe, and Animal Kingdom didn't even exist yet. That's how old I am, kids. So, and I don't remember the flight necessarily being all that long. I think that because, I wasn't, that was the first one to my recollection at all. I wasn't, annoyed by how many hours it would have been or anything. I think I was just probably so excited to be on a plane. And I don't think I slept because I notoriously do not have the ability to fall asleep on planes. Try as I might, I can't do it. I wish I could, but because I would probably have a much nicer experience on some of the longer flights, especially if I'm going back and forth from now LA to Florida to visit my family, or when I would go to New York, on a more consistent basis. But and I can't fall asleep really in cars either. Just via trains, sure, but any other vehicle, it's not happening for me. But nonetheless, so I flew out to Florida when I was very young to go to Disney World, and then had, I think, a similarly long flight to Arizona. My oldest, so I never got to meet almost any of my grandparents because they unfortunately had all passed away by the time that I was born. And one of my only grandparents, funnily enough, was actually one of my great-grandparents. It was my mom's grandma, who lived in Arizona. I think she was one of the few elderly people that didn't retire to Florida like most others do in North America. And so I got to see the Grand Canyon when I was very young. I think that was probably also about 5 when we did that trip. And I've talked many times on other Kirblogs about how we had close family friends that we kind of considered to be like our cousins, just from knowing them for so long in Pennsylvania. And usually that would be a road trip, and that would be about as long as a flight from where we were in New York. But I do remember it was my first time ever going on a really short, hour-long flight at best, where we just said, screw it, we'll fly to Pennsylvania for this next trip to go see them one year. And that was a lot easier. And I was like, oh, flights can be that short. And they're very pleasant when they're only that short. Unless you have 15,000 layovers and then you're just taking 10 short flights in a row, as I've experienced occasionally. I think I've been very lucky in this regard, that I think I've only ever experienced one journey, and I think it was within the last probably 5 years or so. I think maybe when I was coming home from seeing my folks at one point during the holidays. I've only ever had one really, really big pain in the ass, flight delay where okay, I'm going to be staying here overnight. And I don't remember if I got a hotel room or if I just stayed up and hung out at the airport. And, I might have just been so annoyed about the process and everything that I was screw it. I'll just stay up and, work on stuff if I had anything to work on at the time or whatever, Yeah, that's the only real like disaster situation I've ever been in. Thankfully I've been lucky otherwise with most of my travel exploits. I will also mention the longest flight that I've ever been on was when I went to go visit England. I was still pretty young. I think I might have been like 10. I can't quite remember. It was definitely like late 90s. Maybe very, very... No. It was late 90s because I believe Pokemon either hadn't come out yet or maybe it was still like really, really new in the US at the time. Because I remember my other obsessions were anything that were other than Pokemon. It was other Nintendo and Sega and video game stuff. And I remember so I think I've told this story on many, 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 many other Kirblog's, but this is always a really funny one to me. So at the time, my mom, because my parents split up when I was very young and they, went off in different directions and stuff, and were both very good parents to me and stayed friends and everything. But I, lived through both my mom and my dad's dating lives before they eventually got with who are now my stepdad and stepmom. But my mom was dating a guy from England at the time who was living here, and he was a cool guy. And we went to go visit him. I think this is maybe by the time that they had split up, but we were still friends with them. We went to go visit Europe and everything. Excuse me. So I went to Europe. And the flight there, I do remember being like, wow, this is way longer than the flight to Florida to go to Disney. Good Lord. But it's the only time that I've ever been to Europe is when I was very, very young, and we went to London, and we went to France as well. And I was, honestly way too young to appreciate it at all. Because the only things I really cared about were stuff related to video games. And like desserts. I remember, and I probably still have this somewhere. And if anybody from Europe maybe knows what this brand was, there was this little thing of Neapolitan ice cream, like the vanilla chocolate raspberry ice cream, in a little plastic treasure box. And I remember, I think I bought like 3 of them. Well, no, my parents bought them for me. I didn't have any money to be spending on my own by that age. And I took the treasure boxes back with me, and I had them as like little things to store stuff inside of, when I came back to the US, and they're probably still somewhere. I don't know where they would be, but I remember really liking those because it was practically like getting a toy that, came along with the ice cream. And I'm like, that was awesome. So I love that stuff. But, yeah, I went there. We did go up the Eiffel Tower while we were visiting. I have one embarrassing story that I think I might have. I don't know if I want to retell it, but there was something very stupid that happened in France to me that I try to forget about because it's just so embarrassing. And I do remember at a British arcade, I think I played Sonic the Fighters for the first time because they had that there. And I got to play the Sonic fighting game, not knowing that there was one because I never saw it in any arcades in, where I lived in America. And of course, the big thing, I know I've talked about this before, over many, many years, but so, the guy that, this British guy that my mom was seeing at the time, so he told me on the phone, he's like, Chris, you're not going to believe this. There's a Donkey Kong Country TV show airing here in London. And I'm like, no way. And he taped like 6 episodes of the CG Donkey Kong Country animated series on a PAL VHS tape. So I couldn't bring it home with me because we didn't have, I think he said he was going to try to, what's it called? He was going to try to convert it onto like, and I think it's what NTSC, like an American VHS tape, to send to me. And he never got around to doing that. So I just rewatched those 6 episodes on the PAL VHS, like probably 10 times over the course of the week that we were staying in the UK. I swear to God, because I was just so obsessed with, oh my God, I can't believe there's a Donkey Kong cartoon. Wow. Even though it's objectively terrible, but I have kind of a soft spot for it. So that was my experience going to England. Then going to conventions and traveling to cons. The very first convention that I ever went to was a little tiny one local to Long Island called Icon. And I think it had like maybe 2 guests. I think it had like Brad Swale and maybe Taliesin Jaffe. Yeah, I think. And it was a little quick one. And it was fun. I really enjoyed it. It was, not far at all, so it was just a little quick drive away. There wasn't a whole lot to do there since it was so. It was at like a college campus, one of those little kind of microscopic cons, but it was a fun time, and I met a couple cool people there, and there was some funny cosplay. I remember there was a group of like Naruto cosplayers. Naruto was like just coming out at that time, and this group of cosplayers that I remember seeing at a lot of East Coast conventions having like fake battles and stuff. And then I remember I think it was a Guy Sensei and a Tsunade cosplayer that like I would see them at a lot of conventions. Like they were like probably like a recurring group at cons at the East Coast at like Anime Next and Otakon and stuff like that. And I remember like years later they were like on stage for some kind of like masquerade thing, and I think the Guy Sensei proposed to the Tsunade, which was super cute. That was one of my early memories of that. I think I went with a couple friends of mine from high school because I would have still been in high school at the time. But the first big convention I went to, and dear old Dadifer drove me to Baltimore, Maryland, to go to Otakon 2005. My very, very, very first like major convention that I went to. And while I was there, I met Justin Cook for the first time. And there were quite a few voice actors that were all there. I think Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, Greg Ayres, Zero Reynolds, who I went on to work with years later. My God, Scott McNeil was there. So many. And that was a lot of fun to do. And I had a big meetup with a lot of people from a message board that I was on at the time. A lot of people that I was friends with. This was kind of in the midst of when I was doing TTA back then. I met, my ex-girlfriend Santana, who I'm still friends with to this day, the person who, Ruri / Kizuna / Tiger Lily was based on. When we were dating at the time, we met there in person for the first time, and I was cosplaying Base from Mega Man Battle Network / NT Warrior, and she was cosplaying Sango, I think, from Inuyasha. What a pairing we were. But that was fun. We had a good time together, and we went to panels. I think we might have had the premiere of Conqueror of Shambhala, I think. The Fullmetal Alchemist movie. I think we might have went to that at the time, and hung out with a lot of our first meetup IRL with a bunch of internet friends, which was really fun to do, and that was cool. And I do remember particularly my dad came to pick me up, and he went inside the convention center to come find me at one point. Oh, that's right, yeah, because me and my friends we were having an artist alley table. We had an artist alley table, and I sold only like 2 prints that I made. I had like a Star Fox one and like a Naruto one. But it was fun to do. But my dad came to find me, and there were a lot of cosplayers of Trigun characters, because Trigun was still really popular at that time. And he was like, "Christopher, this is amazing. This is such a cool event. All these people going around dressed up. But what's with the guys with the giant crucifixes?" Because there were Wolfwood cosplayers everywhere, which was hysterical. So the giant, crosses they were lugging around and shit was just so bizarre. But nonetheless, that was my first like really big convention experience. And I had a lot of fun with that. And then Otakon became kind of a recurring one. The common ones that I did when I lived on the East Coast, when I was living in New York, were New York Comic Con and New York Anime Fest, which were walkable from where my mom was living in the city at the time. So that was always great to do. And then there was Anime Next in New Jersey, which I went to quite a few years. I think I might have guested there once. I can't remember 100% for sure. But that was a fun one because that was just like a couple train rides away. And often I'd meet up with people, that I knew out there as well, like other internet friends and things. And I was starting to get to know a lot of the voice actor guys. Yeah, the thing was, when I was going to these conventions in the early days, I had enough of a reputation, for better or worse, on the internet as Kerberfer, not just for being an animator and being, a public figure from my stuff that I was doing on the internet, but also because it was kind of known around a lot of circles in the voiceover world for anime, particularly, that like I was the guy that was really knowledgeable. So, because obviously a lot of you guys know I'm a big Rolodex when it comes to, voice acting trivia and knowledge and stuff. So when I'd go to these conventions, a lot of people I would meet, they already, not a ton of them, but some of them already kind of knew who I was. And again, a lot of them, in fact, Chris Bevins, for example, who most people these days would probably recognize most. He's the voice of Hanta Seto, the tape guy from My Hero Academia. But he, at the time, was one of the top voice directors at Funimation, later Crunchyroll. And now he works out here in LA. And actually, I sometimes will assistant direct for him on video games. I'm working on something with him right now, as a matter of fact. And he's awesome. He was one of the first people that was always very personable and cool to me and would tell me a lot of insider stuff about how the business worked. And he was another person I learned a lot from, listening to the audio commentaries on the DVDs of the anime that I was picking up. So, and I even remember at a panel he was doing, I think this might have been one of the Otakons or something, but I was like, hey, so I don't know if you might remember me from a couple years ago. And he's like, hi, Chris. And I was like, oh. So yeah, there were guys like that. And then I got to know Stephanie Shea and Michael Sinner-Nicholas and Caitlin Glass, Justin Cook. I mentioned Sean Schemmel, Chris Sabat, like quite a few people. And then again, by the time that I was transitioning into guesting at some of these conventions, which I'll get to that in a little bit, then there was a little bit of a different dynamic. But even before then, they were like, oh yeah, you're cool. I'll let you know about this. I remember like when they were starting on One Piece, when Funimation was just starting on the dub for One Piece at the time. And, once in a while I would run into one of the people working on it. I'd be like, oh yeah, we just got up to this episode and oh, this person's playing this character or whatever. And I'm like, I shouldn't know these things. Oh my God. It was a little more loosey goosey back then. It was a little, the industry was a little more insular at the time. But oh yeah, I can't forget, big one. This was the first time that I went to visit LA. Was when I went to Anime Expo 2007. And that year, I met Kira Buckland in person for the first time, and she's obviously gone on to be one of my best friends to this day. And we knew each other for a couple of years before that because I worked with her on TTA the movie in 2005. That was my first time really getting to like work with her and like know her a little bit. But it wasn't until we met in person in at Anime Expo in Long Beach at the time before we moved to the LA Convention Center. And now it's one of, if not the single biggest anime conventions in the entire country. And it's a little bit of a clusterfuck, and I don't usually go anymore. But the times that I did used to go, I had a good time and it was fun to do and everything. So, but yeah, I met Kira. I met a few people at that one. I can't recall everybody but Beck Mongolian Chop Squad was new. I did go to the One Piece panel. I do remember, and I always talk about this to Mike McFarland and Justin Cook, about how I was in the audience when they announced who the cast of the Straw Hats were going to be for the Funimation dub of One Piece. And now they've, gone on to do the show for what's going to be coming up on 20 years now, which is crazy to think about. But I'll never forget. That was like a celebration getting to be in the audience for that. That panel, the official like Toei One Piece panel. They had Justin Cook and Mike McFarland come up and talk about, and I even remember, because this was at the time, this is when they were rescuing the show from 4Kids, and Justin Cook talked about, we're going to be picking up, this is a very distinct memory. He was like, we're going to be picking up where the show leaves off in season 3 on Cartoon Network right now. And your voice cast is going to be a little bit different. However, we are also working on a DVD version in which Zoro will be Zoro. And I'm getting like tearful thinking about this. The whole room was cheering and cheering and cheering. And then Justin continues, in fact, all of the characters' names will be as they were originally intended to be. And then, after that, it's like Colleen Klinkenbeard, Chris Sabat, Stephanie Young, Eric Vale, Brandon Palencia. It's like, oh, they literally got all the best people from Dragon Ball and Full Metal Alchemist to be the cast of One Piece. Holy shit, the show is saved. We were so, so happy. And I'm still following the show to this day, and now I've gotten to be on the show, and it's been incredible. So, but so nonetheless, Yeah, I really enjoyed going to AX at the time. It was an exciting prospect, and I have a funny memory. The two people that I was staying with, I think it was three people maybe. I was staying in a hotel with them that was walking distance away from the convention center at the time, and I remember I think on the first night they were up late and they were playing an eroge. Maybe you can look that up. So I had to hear noises of men enjoying each other on a laptop from this adult dating sim Japanese game they were playing. That was something else. I'm just like, okay, this is happening right now, but I'm like, it's fine. We're all adults here. It's okay. I believe, I had just graduated high school at that time, and I was just about to start college. When I went to college, I did also, in my first 2 years of going to the School of Visual Arts, I went to San Diego Comic-Con, in beautiful San Diego, of course, with a whole big group of friends of mine, most of which were classmates from SVA at the time, and one or two people that we knew that were living over in different places in the country. And we got like two big rooms and split with each other and everything. And I remember that was quite an experience. I don't think I'd ever want to go back and redo San Diego Comic-Con, because those of you who don't know, that is one of, if not the single biggest conventions ever, like in the world. Like literally the dealer's hall is like the size of a football field, and it is just swamped like wall to wall with humans, and it's just too much. I had a great time going. It was fun to experience, and I'm glad that I did do it at least, twice in my life. And when I was there, I got to hang out with a bunch of people that I knew from the Newgrounds community, a lot of which I've gotten to be good friends with and still work with and hang out with. Jake Gans, who's now the owner and the head guy of Studio Yada. He was a little kid. He was I think like 14 or 15 when he went to that convention, and he was kind of like the cheering squad of the animators, wanting to be like all of us someday. And now he's become, one of the most successful of all of us, running his own animation studio. And Tomar was there. The Super Flash Brothers, I think, went one year. Happy Harry was there one year. A lot of guys. Tom Fulp, of course, was there. They were premiering. I think they had just released Castle Crashers, which was a big score for the Behemoth and everything. And that was a fun time to get to be there with everybody. And we went to a few panels. I think I went to the Avatar Book 3 panel, if I'm not mistaken. And because that was when the Fire Nation season was airing of Avatar. It was about to air, and they had a big premiere for that. So that was cool. But I wouldn't probably go back to San Diego Comic-Con again unless there was a good reason for me to go. I think pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken, some of the folks from the Amazing Digital Circus are going out there to do a panel for Glitch, which is awesome. If I were to get to go to SDCC as a guest for something someday, that'd be amazing. But if I'm gonna go just as an attendee, I wouldn't, not anymore. Same thing with Anime Expo. I started going to AX as a situational guest. I would be there on behalf of one company promoting Sailor Moon, or usually if it was Viz would have me show up as a guest to do stuff with them specifically. But I would never be a guest of honor at AX necessarily. But but otherwise, going as an attendee, I went as an attendee probably 5 years ago now, maybe 6, to go see the premiere of the Mewtwo Strikes Back CG remake, which they were screening in Japanese with subtitles, and I had to be there for that. So, but otherwise, I guess that's actually a good segue for going to conventions as a guest. So, I think the first 2 conventions, I was even just reminiscing about this because I got to meet the Ed and Eddie actors, Matt Hill, Sam Vincent, who I hadn't seen in 15 years, and Tony Sampson. I met all of them. They were all amazing. And Sam was at one of the first conventions I ever went to, which was Anime Evolution in Burnaby, near Vancouver or in Vancouver. I forget how it's related, but and also MagFest, which I think was it was MagFest first, I think 2009, which was also by the time I had recorded my first a professional voiceover job on Pokemon. And I went up there. I was at the time. This is what was so weird. I did quite a few conventions, mainly because I was Kirbifer, and I didn't charge appearance fees. I didn't really sell anything. I think very rarely I ever did that. I really had no business going to conventions as a guest. I was such a cringe lord. I was such a tryhard, and I look back at like any of my, experiences like being on panels and stuff back then, and I'm like, I was such a loser. Like, honestly, like I really should not have been guesting at conventions back then. But I was grateful that I got to, because I got to meet a lot of people that were really kind, and made a lot of friends and folks. A lot of people that I still know and work with now, that are all really cool folks. And but yeah, at the time, but there were good things, because I remember actually. MagFest was fun. I got to do some cool panels, and I got to meet Matt Mercer, actually, who I ran into at the Comic-Con San Diego that I went to the year before, and then we guested together at MagFest. He was there promoting what the hell was it at the time? There Will Be Brawl, when he was doing that, and I was in the midst of doing the Nintendo to the 64th Power collab. So that was kind of our like video game parody stuff that we were known for at the time. It's really going back, folks. And then at Anime Evolution, that was amazing, because I got to know some of the Vancouver actors that I grew up listening to. I met Kathy Westluck, Richard Cox, Sam Vincent, like I said before, Marika Hendricks, a couple others, Vincent Tong when he was very new. And we premiered the Nintendo to the 64th Power collab there, in a big room full of people, which was amazing. And then also, this was very special, but when I did Youmacon in Michigan, this is a long time ago as well, 2011, we premiered the first episode of Tome, of the web series Terrain Magical Expertise, at the convention right before it premiered online, because I remember the first episode premiered like online on 11/11/11, on November 11th, 2011, at 11:11 in the morning. I remember that very distinctly. But on Halloween weekend at Youmacon, I premiered the first episode of Tome there at a panel first. I used to do this panel called Kirbifer's Flash Stravaganza, which was about me showing off a lot of my animation stuff. And I used to do a panel that was also like how to create an animated short, where I kind of went through the beginning to end process of doing the balancing act thesis film that at the time I had just finished for college. And then I was starting to book a few more roles in voiceover in New York, but not a ton, nothing that was really of major significance. So at the time, I was really going to conventions because I was Kirbifer and not because I was a known voice actor. This is before Reagan or Dezel or Karna or anything that I'm known for now in terms of voiceover stuff, because that didn't really happen until I moved to LA. But I didn't really do a lot of conventions when I was first living in LA. Like, it was very rare that it would ever happen. Then after a while, I started kind of like hustling on that a little bit more. And then again, now that I have a convention agent, I've been, lucky enough to be able to, do more appearances and stuff. And even just recently, I'll even mention this because it's pretty relevant. I went to NostalgiaCon a few weekends ago from by the time that this Kirblog is coming out. Because the lovely Steve Staley, who I've worked with before, he was sick and had to drop out of the con. So I took his place and was there for the weekend, selling stuff at the booth and everything. And it's funny how much it's changed, because now like we're all kind of merchants. It feels similar to like my short experience doing Artist Alley, where you're selling stuff, and occasionally doing panels and et cetera. But when I was there, I got to meet a lot of people that I hadn't seen in like 15. Like, I hadn't seen Dan Green in person in like 15 years. A lot of folks like that, and I hadn't met some of these people in person before, like ever. And I met a lot of my heroes. I met Jack DeSena. I met D. Bradley Baker. I met Carlos Ellis Rocky. I met Tony Sampson. Like, these are all people that like influenced me as an actor when I was very young. And they were all like so much fun and so great to get to speak with. And all the while I got to be, you know, a colleague, you know, signing across from them from, you know, doing different things. And I felt very privileged. I felt like I was really like in this business, and I really was like somebody that mattered, and I like being alongside all these guys and, you know, getting to do this stuff. It was, I don't know, it just felt really special to me, and I really appreciate the fact that I got to have that opportunity, honestly. I've in the last couple months since I've kind of been back to the world again, and I've been doing TikToks and shorts and stuff. There we go. I've had quite a few people asking, "Oh, can you come to this convention? Can you come to this convention?" Because I've had these little, you know, quick signings, mostly local stuff here in California. And I always tell people, like, if you want me to show up at a convention, recommend me as a guest to the con, and I'd love to go and have them contact either Celebworks or Mobile Moniker, and I'd be happy to do a show with whoever. And I really enjoy them. It's become a kind of a necessary way to make money for people in our business now. Sad but true. You know, that's just kind of the way it goes now. And, you know, even at the moment, I'm kind of making my living off of a combination of like, you know, 6 different things. And, you know, I don't have too many Funko Pops, that's the kind of cool hot ticket item right now. But I'm fun at panels. I've recently been, I bring my Reagan suit with me. And I've been pitching panels that are like the Spirits and Such consultation seminar, where I do like fake exorcisms and I like give away prizes and little stupid shit like that. So, yeah, I really enjoy it. And I'd love to travel again too. Like I just had, someone message me, I think on Instagram, like the other day before recording this, saying, "Oh, I'd love for you to come to Abu Dhabi." And I'm like, I would love to come to Abu Dhabi for a convention. Are you kidding me? That'd be amazing. Or to go back to Europe again, or I know Supernova in Australia is a crazy time. Or even to go back to Canada again at some point. I really liked going to Anime Evolution up in Canada. It was really fun. So I hope that'll work out at some point. I'd really like to do that again. And, cause yeah, it's slowed down a lot over the years, but, I'm hoping that maybe, stuff picks up and get some cool things going and prove myself as a marketable asset, as you kind of have to do to survive in this whole kind of crazy entertainment world. I'd love to be able to travel again, and I'd love to be able to do more conventions and, you know, meet more fans and meet more of my colleagues and, you know, see interesting places outside of just the convention centers, etc. So, but, it was a short little quick one. I'm trying to mostly rest my voice this weekend because, I've had 2 straight weeks of nonstop talking. So here's about a half an hour of nonstop talking from me. And I've got a lot of recording to do over this week that this is going to be coming out. So I'm trying to preserve my throat as best as I can. But in the meantime, please, everybody, in the comments below, tell me your interesting stories about traveling, going to conventions, fascinating places that you've been to, other countries, other states, other provinces, whatever. And this Kirblog topic was suggested by Cynocephalid. If you'd like to suggest topics for videos like these, and if you want to hear me record them in my community Discord server before they release, consider supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/Kirbifer. Thank you to Cynocephalid, Kessa, Kirilu Stromboli, and Tommy Walden for joining us today in the Discord server while I'm recording this. It's been a busy last couple of months. Maybe July will get a little bit less insane, but I've got some cool stuff planned. I'm doing some Tenna videos to coincide with all the Deltarune hype and everything. Really need to get back to storyboarding on Balancing Act, and I've got some other new projects that I'm involved in, so keep an eye out. Thank you for listening. Thank you for enjoying, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye!